I cannot describe to you, explain to anyone probably, how hurt I was. And I know that it was not just me, it was other Olympians who had worked just as hard and were just as ready as I was.
For nearly 4 decades, Evelyn Ashford's Olympic gold in 1984 carried a question mark. Was her win truly undisputed, or was it helped by politics and boycotts? Now, at 67, the sprinting legend speaks and confirms everything. No hesitation, no apologies, just the truth from the fastest woman of her era. It's time to revisit the race, the rumors, and the records, because when Evelyn Ashford runs her mouth, the truth finally catches up. The shadow over glory. Evelyn Ashford's gold medal at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics remains one of the most iconic wins in women's track history. She blazed down the 100-meter straightaway, clocking 10.97 seconds, and lit up the Coliseum. But almost immediately, questions began to surface. Because of the Eastern Bloc boycott, major rivals, especially from East Germany and the Soviet Union, were absent. Some wondered, had she truly beaten the best? The most talked about absence was Marlies Gurr, the world record holder who had run 10.81 seconds in 1983. Gurr had dominated the European track circuit and was expected to be Ashford's fiercest competition. But when the USSR led a boycott of the games, she never lined up in Los Angeles. This void gave critics ammunition. Though Ashford's victory was legitimate, whispers began, what if Gurr had raced? Those whispers weren't isolated. Through the 1990s, the topic showed up in interviews, sports documentaries, and anniversary coverage. In 2004, a panel on Olympic sprint history brought it up again. Ashford, for years, stayed quiet, but the questions weren't going away. Her time of 10.97 remained official, but for some, it came with an unspoken asterisk. Now, at 67 years old, Ashford is addressing it directly. In a 2024 interview, she declared, "The boycott didn't change my speed. I was the best, and I proved it." With that statement, she began erasing the doubt that had lingered for 4 decades. To understand why those doubts cut so deep, we must return to where her journey began, on school tracks in Louisiana. Roots of a sprinter. Evelyn Ashford was born on April 15, 1957 in Shreveport, Louisiana. In the late 1960s, she was already outrunning boys in elementary school races. Her early times, some clocked unofficially under 12 seconds, drew attention. Coaches noticed her form, her power, and her hunger. By 1973, she was a star in high school meets, already breaking state records in the 100 and 200 meters. That raw talent led her to UCLA, where she trained under Coach Pat Connolly from 1975 to 1979. Those college years were foundational. Ashford learned interval training, block starts, and race strategy. In 1977, she ran 11.0 seconds flat in a collegiate meet, one of the fastest times in NCAA history at the time. She competed in Pac-10 championships, NCAA finals, and national relays, solidifying her reputation as America's next sprinting hope. Her time at UCLA also introduced her to international competition. In the summers of 1978 and 1979, she raced in Europe, competing in cities like Zurich, Oslo, and Brussels. There, she ran against top-tier European talent and often won. She consistently finished under 11.1 seconds, proving she could beat the best, regardless of geography. These were crucial years in building her world-class mindset. Ashford emerged from college not just as a fast runner, but as a complete athlete. She had technical precision, race intelligence, and unmatched drive. With each sprint, she edged closer to the Olympic stage, fueled by years of practice, discipline, and time drops that turned heads worldwide. With college behind her and global races under her belt, the Olympic stage was calling, and she was ready to answer. First taste of the Olympic stage. At 19 years old, Evelyn Ashford competed in her first Olympics, the 1976 Montreal Games. She ran in the 4x100-meter relay and helped the US secure a silver medal, finishing just behind East Germany. It was a defining experience. Competing alongside veterans, Ashford held her own, showing speed and poise under Olympic pressure. That performance set the stage for the greatness to come. Between 1976 and 1980, Ashford's career accelerated. She ran consistent 10.9 and 11.02 times in major meets across the US and Europe. She improved her starts, refined her finish, and became a medal favorite for Moscow 1980, but politics had other plans. The US boycott of the Moscow Olympics, in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, meant Ashford couldn't race on the biggest stage. Years of preparation vanished overnight. The missed opportunity cut deep. Ashford was at her prime, ready to face names like Gur and Lyudmila Kondratieva. Instead, she watched from home. Still, she didn't slow down. In 1980 and 1981, she ran in independent and international meets, often winning. She clocked 10.85 seconds in a summer race, proving her fitness. But the Olympic moment she'd trained for since childhood was gone. Ashford entered 1984 not just as a contender, but as a woman on a mission. The fire from 1980 burned within her. She didn't just want a medal. She wanted to prove to the world that the stage, the spotlight, and the record books belonged to her. By 1984, the stakes had never been higher. The spotlight returned, but so did the shadow of absent rivals. Los Angeles 1984. The 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles were a homecoming for American athletes, and for Evelyn Ashford, a moment of destiny. On August 5th, 1984, she lined up for the women's 100-meter final under clear skies and roaring crowds at the Coliseum. In 10.97 seconds, she crossed the finish line first, winning her first individual Olympic gold medal. It was a performance of strength and speed, yet even as the flag rose and the anthem played, murmurs began. The Soviet Union and 14 other nations had boycotted the games in retaliation for the US boycott in 1980. That meant Ashford's fiercest competition, especially Marlies Gur, never appeared. Gur had run 10.81 seconds in 1983, faster than Ashford's winning time. Her absence cast doubt not on Ashford's speed, but on the completeness of the competition. Critics argued she had run unchallenged. Even in victory, Ashford could feel the invisible pressure of what wasn't there. Yet Ashford also anchored the US 4x100-meter relay, winning another gold with her teammates. Her consistency across multiple events underscored her status as the world's best sprinter. But outside the track, headlines focused on geopolitics more than athleticism. For many athletes, the 1984 Olympics were defined not by performance, but by who didn't show up. Ashford's gold was legitimate. Still, the absence of the Eastern Bloc competitors left a question mark she couldn't erase, at least not yet. To answer those whispers, Ashford didn't wait long. She sought a face-to-face showdown with the rival who never showed up. Zurich showdown. Just 17 days after her Olympic victory, Evelyn Ashford flew to Zurich, Switzerland to run the Weltklasse meet on August 22, 1984. This wasn't just another race, it was a clash of titans. On the starting line stood Marlies Gur, finally ready to face Ashford head-to-head. The air was tense. This was the race that should have happened in Los Angeles. Now under the stadium lights of Europe, the sprint would decide everything. Ashford exploded from the blocks and led from the start. Gur, fast and experienced, tried to close the gap, but Ashford surged. She crossed the finish line in 10.76 seconds, a new world record, shattering Gur's mark. The crowd roared. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Ashford had defeated the woman the world said she couldn't. She'd erased any doubt about her Olympic gold just 17 days earlier. Having silenced her critics on the track, Ashford turned her attention to the future and to building something that lasted. Beyond one race. Ashford didn't fade after 1984, she surged forward. In the 1988 Seoul Olympics, at age 31, she won another 4x100-meter relay gold, adding to her medal count. She reached the 100-meter final again, placing 4th. Few sprinters sustain elite form over multiple Olympic cycles, but Ashford raced competitively for more than 16 years, setting records and remaining a top-ranked sprinter well into her 30s. She continued running through the early 1990s, becoming one of the few athletes to qualify for 4 Olympic Games. Her total Olympic haul, 5 medals, 4 gold, 1 silver, from 1976 to 1992. Her training was legendary. Reports from 1986 detailed her early morning sessions, resistance workouts, and strict recovery routines. She didn't just rely on natural talent, she reinvented her form to stay fast, adjusting stride mechanics and diet to handle aging. As years passed, Ashford carried more than medals, she carried a voice, and at 67 she was ready to use it. The reckoning and revelation. In 2024, at 67 years old, Evelyn Ashford sat down for a long-form interview where she finally addressed the long-standing Olympic controversy. Her words were measured, but firm. "I knew I was the best in 1984. The boycott didn't stop me from running 10.97 seconds. It didn't stop me from running 10.76 2 weeks later." The interviewer pressed further, but Ashford didn't waver. After nearly 40 years, she had no doubt left to hide. She went on to describe the frustration of being second-guessed for decades. "I never missed the competition," she said. "I missed the recognition." For Ashford, the real race wasn't against Gurr or the clock, it was against a narrative that tried to shrink her legacy. She recalled watching documentaries in the 1990s and 2000s that downplayed her record-breaking runs. Even during her Hall of Fame induction in 1997, she noticed what wasn't said. Ashford's words didn't just rewrite her story, they reshaped how champions are defined. Her legacy, however, reaches far beyond medals. What this means for her legacy. The ripple effects of Ashford's revelation were immediate. Sports sites revisited old articles. Track historians updated analysis pieces on the 1984 Olympics. New podcasts aired segments titled "No More Asterisk," diving deep into the meaning of 10.76 seconds in Zurich. It wasn't just that Ashford had won, it was that she had reclaimed how history framed it. For many, her confession at age 67 wasn't a defense, it was a declaration of truth. Ashford's gold medals, 4 total between 1984 and 1988, took on new weight. Where critics once said politics helped her win, now analysts emphasized her back-to-back dominance. In 1985, she won nearly every major race she entered. Her world rankings from 1983 to 1987 were consistently in the top 2. Track and field publications began reprinting profiles with headlines like "Ashford, the woman who beat everyone." But for Ashford, legacy was never just about time. It was about giving others time to dream, train, and believe. Lessons of resilience and identity. Ashford's story isn't just one of speed, it's one of resilience, self-belief, and the power of voice. Throughout her career, she faced external judgment, political boycotts, missing rivals, media speculation, but internally, her compass never wavered. From her college years at UCLA through 4 Olympic appearances, 1976 to 1992, Ashford ran not to escape doubt, but to prove herself right. That mental toughness is what set her apart from even the fastest. She often spoke about the silent lane, the idea that she was always racing against perceptions, not just competitors. In the 1980s, few black women athletes were given the same spotlight or narrative control. Ashford knew her medals weren't always enough to change public opinion, but her presence was. She inspired generations not just by winning, but by standing firm. In interviews from 1989, she told young girls, "Run your own race," even when they doubt the lane exists. In the end, Evelyn Ashford's greatness isn't just in how she ran, but in what she left behind when she stopped. Legacy carved in golden fire. Today, Evelyn Ashford's name stands where it always belonged, among the all-time greats. Her world record in Zurich, her 1984 gold, and her presence across 4 Olympic Games remain unmatched by most sprinters in history. But beyond stats, it's her journey that makes her story unforgettable. She raced through political chaos, career doubt, and generational shifts, emerging, always, at the front of the pack. Her medals, 5 total, including 4 golds, now shine with renewed meaning. Every one of them represents more than victory, they reflect persistence. From 1976 to 1992, across nearly 2 decades, Ashford never settled. Her 100-meter races were clinics in explosiveness. Her relays were lessons in trust and teamwork. Even when sidelined by injury in 1987, she returned to compete again in 1988, beating the clock and time itself. Athletes like Allison Felix and Sha'Carri Richardson credit Ashford as a pathbreaker. Her style, grace, and quiet dominance became the standard. Track historians now call her a turning point in women's sprinting. Someone who pushed the sport from raw talent into refined professionalism. Her legacy is taught, replayed, and remembered with the reverence it deserves. And now with her voice clear and her truth confirmed, Evelyn Ashford runs no more, but she has never stood still. Evelyn Ashford didn't just beat the clock, she outran history, doubt, and every whispered rumor. Her voice at 67 brings clarity that time couldn't. Her medals weren't gifts, they were earned, second by second, stride by stride. And now her legacy is sealed, not not in controversy, but in courage. If this story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe, because true greatness isn't just about speed, it's about the strength to speak, even after the race is over.